Hi everyone, it's Dr. Sarah Moore here, and I am absolutely delighted to be here with Bec Coe-Macri this morning. Bec is a patient of mine, and we met probably close to 6 months ago now, and I have had the privilege of witnessing a transformation in Bec that I think neither of us knew was possible. And so it's just such a pleasure to be here with you today, Bec, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this conversation unfolds. So the most exciting thing about this interview is that Bec is actually going to play us a song. So Bec, would you like to talk a little bit about that and then, flow into your song?
Okay. Thanks, Sarah. This is a song that I wrote shortly after my first appointment with you, which was the wonderful crystallizing catalyst moment when I finally figured out, well, you told me what had been ailing me these past few years, and it had never occurred to me, it came completely out of left field, that I was suffering post-traumatic stress. And that was behind all of my hormonal changes and things, why I was continually unwell and couldn't bounce back to my original self after having my last baby, Jessie. And then I realized, once I realized that, it took me on a journey of discovery, and I learned that I have all this stuff inside me that I haven't dealt with that needs to come up and out. And then the whole point of this song is basically, the song is called Time Is On My Side, but not to be confused with the Rolling Stones song, of course. It means that there's always time to heal. There's always, it's never too late to start healing from whatever it is that's ailing you. Yeah. And that's what this song's about. It's just about saying, there's always time to start healing.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'll rip into it and get it over with. All right, here we go. Couldn't believe what she said I lost. I couldn't see what the cause. Now I must feel it, face it head on. Dive in the deep, bleed till it's gone. Time's on my side. Time's on my side. Oh, wasn't always this way. Nights were long, but they're always the same. But now it seems it's dark complete, and you wonder how it made the change. Pain is lost, you can slip out of reach. You gotta dig down in the deep. And you know it in your heart and soul that something down there is speak. complicated, but it isn't real. You will face it, you are gonna heal. It's complicated, but it isn't real. You will face it, you are gonna heal. Sucked it up at the end there.
Well done. Thanks, Beck.
Oh,
Wow.
almost made it through.
Yeah, that was
Thanks.
awesome. And
But,
some
yeah.
absolutely beautiful messages there that, yeah. So, look, where to start? I mean, I think it would be great to give a little kind of almost a snapshot or a summary of the sorts of things that have happened to you in your life that kind of led you to the point where you were really searching for some answers and, yeah, I guess help other mums and women who are finding themselves a bit lost in the system, and I guess to give them some hope that there are the answers are out there, but often you need to look a little deeper to find them.
Yes. Well, I ended up seeking you out because I'd heard that you were really good with women's health, and I was at the stage where I thought I was going into menopause because my hormones were all over the place, and I think I had just had a 10-day period, and it was just strange. And I kept going for the past 3 3/4 years. I had been going through stages of just being unwell, lethargy, lots of different symptoms that I thought were either thyroid or I thought at one stage I might have throat cancer because I kept getting mouth ulcers and things. But I knew it was something hormonal, but I couldn't quite. I never found any proper explanation for it. I tried diet changes. I tried everything. I went through so many different healthcare professionals. I did see a naturopath. I saw an ear, nose, and throat specialist. The only thing that was sort of helping me sort of get some energy levels back was acupuncture. But it wasn't for anything specific. I would just go in there and have a treatment for my own well-being. But then, yes, after that period, I came in and saw you, and I gave you my big long list that I had printed out of all of my symptoms and history of being unwell and such. And you went, tell me about your birth. And it just completely came out of left field. And my last birth experience with Jesse was extremely traumatic. It was just really rough. When he came out, he had, it was a rough labour. I was induced. When he came out spine on spine. I can't remember what that's called now.
Posterior. Mm.
Yes, that's it. And then he also came out with his arm outstretched, and he tore me. I had a 4th degree tear. And then as soon as he was out, they whisked him away and started chopping tongue ties and such. And then the doctor said, you're going to have to go to Bunbury because you've got this horrible tear and you need to be stitched up. So they put me in the ambulance, but there was no baby carrier for Jessie. And so for the first 4 hours of Jesse's life, we were separated not only in rooms but in different towns. We were just completely wrenched apart from one another. And my husband ended up driving Jesse up later that night in our own car after I'd been stitched up and everything. And then when I came back to Busselton, I found I couldn't sit up without this horrible headache. And then we discovered that I had a dural headache, so I had to go have a blood patch put on at the base of my spine. And I realised that in the process of having the epidural, because I was in so much pain, I was getting my left and right mixed up. And so the fellow who'd been administering the epidural was saying, is it left or right, left or right? And I was just saying, left, it's left. But I realised the next day I had it mixed up. So due to my crazed guidance, he had, the epidural hadn't gone very well, and hence the dural headache where I couldn't sit up. It was super painful. But the thing that was most painful about the whole birth experience was the separation, where Jesse and I were separated for those 4 hours. And it's still, when I think about it, it just tears me up that, it was, because then I went on, as a mother already of a young child, you just sort of get on with things. Finally got over all of the post-birth pain, got out of hospital, straight into busy life at home. Jesse had trouble breastfeeding, so I full-time expressed for him for 8 months, which really hammered me. And if I had my time again, I wouldn't do that. I would have just given him a bottle of formula and taken the time to bond with him. At the time, I didn't know. I just was running. I realise now on nothing but stress and adrenaline. Just for that 8 months, just ran myself into the ground, I guess. And it was only after our wedding that happened the following year, I just collapsed, and I never bounced back. And I've learnt now, since meeting with you, that the experience of that birth, because I have a past history of blocking out anything negative due to my turbulent teenage years and, childhood issues that have yet to be resolved, or I'm in the process of resolving now, but my coping mechanism in the past was just to completely block out anything negative and focus solely on, like the positive, but to a fault, and because that was the way my brain operated, my brain completely shut out the trauma that my body and mind and everything had been through during the birth experience with Jesse. And yet it still was, simmering away in my subconscious or underneath my conscious operating level. But I was just taking care of business. Meanwhile, my body was just suffering. And like you explained to me, there was a biochemical change in my body because there was so much cortisol pumping through my system. And then this, of course, was the root cause behind all of my ill health for the next few years, because I didn't realize I knew it was hormonal. I knew there was something, but I could never pinpoint it. So since seeing you that first day, which was the most, one of the most pivotal experiences of my life, actually, because it led me to learn so much, but also you got it, you nailed it, you saw through all of the other, everything else, and you pinpointed the cause at the bottom of all of these symptoms. And since then, I've managed to start sort of turning it around through therapy and medication and trying to reset my body's biochemistry, by doing lots of meditation and self-care, and I'm feeling a lot better for it, because I know that I know the answer, you know, and thank you. I can't thank you enough.
Well, it is a pleasure, and it is so wonderful to hear that, you know, that you've made such a transformational change and that you're feeling so much better. And obviously, you know, there's still, you know, some healing to do, and, you know, it's
Yeah.
a short period of time to have already made such an improvement. But, and, you know, and what about, I'm really curious to hear what your husband and children have noticed since you've been on this journey.
My husband has definitely noticed a positive difference, you know, because often I would just sort of I would just collapse for a few days, and not really be able to function. But I'm finding I can cope a lot better these days. And also the kids notice it, because our household we're a happy household anyway, but there is a calm energy here, you know, because a lot of how the mother feels often dictates how things go. And you know, I'm sure people can relate to when you're having a rough day, the kids always sort of press your buttons because they instinctively, you know, they pick up on that, you know, your struggles. And that just, you know, if I'm having a rough day, then the kids are having a rough day too, because also they know mum's not feeling well. And then that's, you know, there's an underlayer of concern, you know, but when they see me laughing and joking and, you know, being silly and, you know, back to and having energy again, you know, and stamina, it's really helpful. I notice it very much in the afternoons and evenings, which was a time that I would normally just, you know, I'm pretty good in the mornings, you know, even when I was unwell, but when it came to afternoon and evening, I would just falter. But now I'm able to, you know, charge on through all of that time. So that's a real, you know, marker for me, is seeing how I can actually just function through an afternoon, dinner and evening, you know. And then I collapse at 9 o'clock and go to bed, but, you know.
Which is great.
Yeah,
we all need sleep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been good. It's been good for them, as, you know, and that's the reason I wanted to feel better, because I felt like I wasn't being my best self, you know, as a mother primarily. My husband is super supportive, and he's, you know, he's a very good rock for me. I felt like, you know, I wasn't able to give to the kids what they deserved, you know.
Yeah,
every mother feels that way, I'm sure.
absolutely. Every mum wants to be the best version of themselves for their families and for themselves too. But
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, I loved your message from your song that there's time to heal. And I guess that would be my message and yours too, that doesn't matter how long it's been going on for, or how long since there's been a traumatic event, it's never too late. And to kind of almost listen. Did you have a sense intuitively what might have been going on? I mean, you did talk, you knew that there was something wrong. And obviously that's why you kept seeking help, because you knew that you weren't getting the answers that you needed. I mean, what's your kind of thoughts about, you know, women's intuition and how important that is to listen into?
Well, it's our most truthful voice, you know. I definitely knew there was something wrong. I had no idea what it actually was, though. I thought it was a lot more physical. I didn't understand that it was actually emotional. And so when you said it was the result of stress from unresolved trauma, it came completely out of left field to me, but it made so much sense. And since I've been working with Hayley, the psychologist, we started off in my past, and we've been working through, and I've been facing basically everything that I had shoved aside. And she explained to me that, you know, our brains and our bodies can only handle so much. I was almost at critical mass, you know, and so once I started releasing some of this stuff, working through it, you know, I'm opening up space for more healing and learning, and everything sort of readjusts its position in you. It's fascinating, actually. But I knew there was something wrong. It was very hard to explain.
Yeah.
It's very hard to explain and to make sense of all these different symptoms that could be anything. But it was,
And I guess I think for some mums it can be quite confronting to have to go back and look at the trauma. How did you manage that? Because I think for some mums that's almost a bit too far to go. Sometimes they need time to be able to look at that, fair and square. Tell me about that experience for you, because I think some mums might be sitting there listening to you going, oh, I just can't go back there. It's just too painful. Talk a little bit about that, because I'm really interested to hear your sort of thoughts on that.
The thing that has made it doable is that Hayley explains everything to me from a neuroscience perspective. And it really takes a lot of the it makes me realize that it's not personal. When she explains what is physically happening in your brain at this time, it's reassuring. So I will say something, and then she will tell me exactly what my brain is doing at that time, how it functions, where it sends that information, what that creates, and that has made it it makes the process make sense, because it often feels like it's, when we're talking about emotion, it's so intangible and it's very raw. But then having somebody explain things, from a scientific perspective, it really it makes it a lot more manageable. I think it's been very helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I find that as well, definitely. And I think that's the approach I took with you when I first saw you, talking about those physiological changes that happen when you're stressed, and why that the body stores those memories, and how it can impact on your physical symptoms. So and I totally agree with you. I find that often is really helpful. So Bec, I've just really enjoyed our conversation. Do you have any closing comments before we sort of finish up? Any sort of take-home messages, or wise words of advice for anyone that's listening in?
I think as women, we all have trouble with our hormones, and we all keep on going through stress, and stress is just a part of our lives, especially as mothers, and we just power on. And I think, and what I have learned is to understand what exactly that stress is doing to me, to us, and that we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We can approach our lives and our responsibilities and our families from a less stressed angle. If it sounds impossible, but stress is not healthy. And so that's I guess. And if you feel we've got hormonal problems, like I felt for years, perhaps that it could be the source of it, maybe from somewhere that you don't expect, like post-traumatic stress or trauma or childhood trauma, or something hidden away that needs to come out. But and it's never too late. It's never too late.
Well, that is a beautiful way to finish, Bec, and thank you again. I really do appreciate you making the time and being so open and honest. I think it's it's incredibly brave, but also incredibly generous, and I'm really hoping, and in fact I'm really sure, that anyone that listens to this who's got a similar story, or even not such a similar story, will be really grateful that you've taking the time out to share your story with us today.
Thank
And
you, Sarah.
it really is a pleasure. And that's exactly why I love my work so much, is because I get to see these transformational experiences, you know, and really, I mean, you're the one that's done the hard work and continues to do the hard work. And it's, you know, your motivation and commitment that's, you know, led to these changes. So, yeah, awesome.
Thank you. I cannot thank you enough. We're so blessed to have you here in Busselton, and I can only imagine how many women's lives you will enrich, you know, because you've helped me immeasurably. And I'm so grateful to you.
Oh, thank you, Beck. Okay, well, I think we'll leave it there. And I'm sure I'll see you again soon anyway. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how your journey continues. So thank you, Beck.
Onwards and upwards.
Onwards and upwards, absolutely. All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.